Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lori Linton. I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Museum of Acadiana, right over there in the heart of downtown Lafayette. Arts and culture aren't just things we celebrate, they're how we connect. They're the rhythm and the reason we gather, the spark that reminds us we belong to one another. At a time of authentic public space feels scarce, creativity gives us joyful excuse to come together, to share stories, build trust, and shape places we call home. This panel, A Reason to Show Up, Culture as an Excuse to Develop Our Community, explores exactly that. How music, festivals, murals, and shared experiences are more than just entertainment. They're tools to development for equity and healing. We're joined today by four incredible people whose work lives at the intersection of people, place, and purpose. Tina Shelvin Bingham, Community Development Director at Lafayette Habitat for Humanity, who has brought arts into the very fabric of neighborhood revitalization in McComb-Veazey. Jamie Boudreaux, Chief Communications Officer of Lafayette Consolidated Government, who ensures our city story reflects all of the people and uses communication as a bridge. Anna Kojevnikov, Community Engagement Director at the Acadiana Center for the Arts, who is advancing cultural access, equity, and opportunity throughout the region. And guiding the conversation is George Marks, the director of NUNU Arts and Culture Collective in Arnaudville. George is not only an accomplished artist, he's a pioneer in rural creative placemaking, whose work has helped redefine how small communities across Acadiana use culture to thrive. You can find their full bios on ACA's event page or scanning the QR code on the back of the printed schedule. Together, they'll be digging into how culture is not an afterthought, but a powerful tool, a powerful tool, a reason to show up and a way to move forward. And we will have some time at the end for a few questions from the audience, so think of things you want to ask these talented people. And as we're speaking of forward momentum, I'm thrilled to announce that as of today, a $65,000 public art opportunity is officially open. We are commissioning a large-scale mural to transform the exterior of the Children's Museum of Acadiana, facing Parc Sans Souci and the soon-to-rise Hotel Lafayette. This will be a landmark public artwork in the center of our city, one that reflects the joy, wonder, and possibility of this place. This opportunity is made possible by strong partnerships and deep community investment from the ACA's Public Art Network, including Lafayette Consolidated Government, Downtown Lafayette Unlimited, and the Pinhook Foundation, along with generous donors through the Community Foundation of Acadiana. It's proof of what's possible when we invest in culture as a shared value and a shared resource. Artists, the call is live now. At Acadiana Center for the Arts, you may even have a pamphlet in your pouch with more information. We encourage you to share far and wide. All artists residing in Louisiana may submit their qualifications to be considered. Before we dive in, we're asking you to take part in something too. You'll find a postcard at your seat or in the front. We invite you to write one personal commitment, big or small, that you're willing to strengthen community through culture. Post it up on the commitment wall before you leave. We'll send it back to you in the upcoming weeks as a reminder that community change starts with real people taking real steps. Now, George, your turn to take it away.
How y'all doing? So I'm gonna put my little specs on because I can't see a thing without them these days. Thank you for coming, and thank you ACA for hosting this event. And I had a little lead in, but Laura said so many wonderful things. I don't really feel that I need to say anything more, so we'll go right into it. And thank you guys, our panelists, for participating in this conversation. I do want to say sometimes, like when we come together and we actually talk about things and participate, oftentimes it's during periods where there's disinvestment or challenges that we're facing. And today, the topic in regards to culture and identifying what are those things in culture that help to connect us. We can use culture as a strategy to help move our communities forward. And so I'd like to start with the first question, and it's for all the panelists. Culture as a catalyst. So what does it mean to use culture as a reason to come together? And why is that important right now in communities like ours?
Rock, paper,
Let's start,
scissors.
Anna?
Yeah, I mean, arts and culture are like really integral to finding common ground. I think coming together around, community building efforts really kind of bring our community together. There's so many different ways to kind of define culture, and arts is just one of them, and that's the one that, I guess I participate in more than the others. So I think, finding like low barrier entry points as well to help the community come together, to create something together. I think, the pandemic really kind of started a period of social isolation, and so coming together around different ways that, we can come together, including art making. We have like some programs that have done that successfully. I mean, Creative Acadiana was kind of born out of that, and this is a program of Creative Acadiana, and it's really great to see so many people coming together for that as well. And I think it's important because the more you know about people and their backgrounds, and the more people like you accept them. So I think it really helps to bring people together and understand each other. And I think that's really something that we need to be doing a lot of right now.
So almost like culture as an identity.
Yeah.
Like helping to people, I get that.
So something, I see Kathy Pavi in the audience. There's something that we're working on right now, and we were looking at Lafayettes across the United States, right? And what is the thing that ultimately makes the Lafayette, Louisiana that much different? And I know culture is a word that we use a whole lot, but when we were comparing cities, that was absolutely what made us so different. And so that's why it's so critical for us to continue to invest in it and continue to shout it from the rooftops as to what is it that does make us different, because that is our biggest selling point and our business, our biggest unique identifier, if you will. And we've got shared commonality and shared connection through that at a local level, and for folks that know about us but maybe aren't here. So it's important for us to continue to invest in that and make sure that that's what keeps us alive and awesome.
Tina?
Well, y'all kind of both took my answer. So, but I think same to everybody. It's about how we connect, how we come together as a culture across all different cultural divides, all different means, your demo. I think it also is how we come together as a community, not only in the good times, because look, Lafayette, just like the state of Louisiana, we love a festival. We love to have a good time, but how we also come together in the not so good times, right? And how we band together to really build culture, and making sure that everyone in our community, whether they live here or whether they're just visiting from one of our festivals, all leave with the same experience. That when they go back to their, countries of origin or their states of origin, that they have the same experience here in Lafayette, and that they feel that they have become a part of our culture as well as a part of our community.
So in a sense that, the bad times oftentimes catalyzes us to make a difference, and that the idea is for us to really come together during the good times also. So Tina, this is for you. So can you share a project in McComb-Veazey where cultural activity built trust or shifted visibility?
Sure. So McComb's, when I first started working with McComb's neighborhood coterie, our first kind of identification was wanting to reconnect with the community. My personal journey was that I wanted to find out where my grandparents and where my family settled in the city of Lafayette and why. So in doing that, of course, involved a lot of walking in the neighborhood and talking to people and getting to know the neighbors a little bit more, and cousins. I literally could not go on a block without meeting a cousin. But it was really important that we identify that cultural heritage in our community and really celebrate that. So McComb's project initially started as a cultural revitalization project that focused on food, arts, and culture being the culture bearers for that, the connection of the culture to the community. So we had a lot of good conversations with the community around Creole culture, African American heritage, just making sure that people understood. So when we went out and we had different conversations around our cultural district, a lot of it was listening to the community, building that sense of community, but also trust in the community that we're listening. We are a community that loves to plan. Not all of our plans end up in implementation. And in communities like McComb-Veazey, where plans have always happened, and not as much implementation sometimes, we wanted to make sure that we were celebrating that and making sure that we were honoring the residents and what they had experienced, but then also what they'd like to see in their community. So our conversations would be really organic. Very, come and play games with us, Let's have a very strategic game of UNO and, just like talk to the community about what they want to see. And then instead of saying, we're going to do a thing and we want you to do the thing, we'll invite you to do the thing, and then even if you don't come, the thing happened, right? And then we're going to celebrate that with you, too. So come out and play another round of cards. Let's roast a pig or do something, that really celebrates our community's culture and uplifts that. So doing that has really helped to elevate McComb-Veazey in the community as a leader in what a coterie could potentially be. But then it also helped to elevate us with our partnership with Lafayette Habitat for Humanity to an international level and even a national model for what other communities would like to see happening and how they work with their local governments and their community to make positive change happen.
All right, so Anna, we're gonna move on to you again. Anna, what lessons have you learned from engaging communities across language, geography, or accessibility barriers?
Yeah, I think, so I came into this job maybe almost 4 years ago now, and they were all barriers that I wanted to break down since I started. Some of the programs that I started doing that with was ArtSpark. It's ArtSpark is a grant for individual artists who to make new work. But what we were seeing was that the majority of people who were applying for these grants were from Lafayette. So we tried to really broaden what we were doing and how we were doing it. So, I think at the last session, Mandy and Sam spoke about the partnership that LEADER has. LEADER expanded their funding towards outreach. So even though they're the Lafayette Economic Development Authority, they do also, they help us with outreach to the broader Acadiana community. It looked like we were just making sure that we were in community with people, we were meeting them where they were, we were providing those resources. But also, it's not just about that, it's about the partnerships that we build, because we can't do this alone. We're community engagement, we're not, and we're all working in similar areas where we have to have partners to be able to pull these things off. So, building those partnerships and making sure that the networks are there to be able to share the opportunities. Was that the full question? And things like arts, the other thing that ArtSpark really let us do was we have a growing Latino population here, and what we really wanted to try to do, and we haven't done it successfully yet, but we have translated all of the materials into Spanish to try to include them. And I think that's a really great point, is that just because you are starting these initiatives where you're trying to be more inclusive, just because you do it once doesn't mean that it's always going to work, and you just need to keep doing it, and you can't be discouraged by it. So yeah, I think we really need to continue on that journey as well.
I'm going to throw you under the bus for a second. So, translated in French or Creole and Creole, could we do that?
It's definitely something that we have been working towards, but like anything, we have to have the correct funding to be able to do that.
All right.
So, and at the time, we had funding to be able to translate into Spanish, but we haven't done that into French Creole yet. So it's in the works. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to move on to Jamie. Jamie, from Monkus Park to public service. How do you use cultural strategy to deepen civic participation?
Yeah, so I think despite what sector you're in, right? Ultimately, people have a desire to be connected and feel engaged in what's happening, right? So one of the biggest things, I think, especially for myself and taking the role that I'm in since last summer, is how do we continue to just build trust, build transparency, have a sense of accessibility to all of the great things that are happening, right? So I know from an LCG perspective, it's, maybe we think outside the box a little bit on programming and where we host events. And maybe it's not an intimidating government venue, and maybe it's in a church, or maybe it is in a park. Just thinking of creative ways to encourage participation and meet people where they are. I think another important thing is there's not a shortage of information out there. I mean, I'm always learning of new things that are taking place. And so I think it's just finding creative ways to figure out how to aggregate all of that and make sure that we are just shouting it from the rooftops. A couple of speakers mentioned this before we came on, is, there's a lot out there, and you've got to really think outside the box on how to reach people where they are, right? The idea of you post on social, did you boost it? You've got money behind it. Who's following you? Who's not following you? I mean, there's a lot to take into account there. So just trying to get creative and being open for that feedback, but ultimately building that trust and making sure people can easily access the information that you're trying to relay. I'd pretty much say that.
Yeah, I just want to also add, this is the thing, is having that network to be able to get that out. And I think one of the main reasons we wanted to put this event on is to try to figure out what those networks are. And the more that we come together and talk to each other and understand that we're all on the same page, but we just haven't congregated together to be able to understand what that network looks like. So I'm really happy to be hearing everybody talking about the same things, and now I think that we're probably going to go away with some excellent actions after this, something to add to those commitment walls.
So now, this question is for all three of y'all. What role should local government play in embedding culture into the fabric of a community's health and cohesion?
Can the non-government person go first?
Sure. Look, I think that, I think a lot of the times maybe arts and culture aren't taken as seriously as some other, policy efforts. And I feel like we, even just the early stages of today's event, we're really understanding that it does actually contribute a lot to what we're trying to our community and our culture. And I think that we really can't forget about the arts and culture, and it shouldn't just be an afterthought. It should be definitely planned in from the start. I think there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment with social cohesion, And there's a lot of studies about how the arts and culture play a huge role in helping people with their mental health and making sure that they're connected to their communities. And I think that if we're talking about connecting, what that public health looks like, then we really need to be considering arts and culture as as a core function of that. And so I really hope that Jamie can communicate that back to the powers that be.
Yeah, so one initiative that was brought up previously was Sound Music Cities, and I think that was a great testament to government coming together with other strategic partners to make an initial investment on the ecosystem of music, if you will, right? It's not just our artists, but it's also our producers, it's our venues, so that was, I'm thinking of local government, and Mayor President Boulay has definitely made that investment and put that forward to say, this is important to us, it's important to our community, but how does government continue to make strategic investment on those, and allocating funding that supports artists and supports nonprofit cultural producers and things of that nature. I think the other component of government's responsibility undoubtedly is accessible infrastructure. So when you think about investment, or when you think about partnerships with, let's take Amoncus Park. It's a 99-year lease with LCG that helped to kind of kick that off, right? And that was very much government. Or if it's, supporting the Laplace Coteries new park in their neighborhood, that's very much government. So how are those accessible infrastructure pieces coming to life, and how do they continue to be a priority for administrations?
So in a way, it's kind of like removing hurdles, right? And identifying a pathway that basically clearing a pathway for artists and creative folks to move forward through.
Yeah, undoubtedly. There's definitely some policy framework as part of that. Right? How do we make things easier for folks and, again, increase that access? But yeah, no doubt.
So same ditto to everything. I think it's really important as government's role, I think, is to lay a foundation, right? And to lay the good infrastructure into all of the things that make quality of life in our community important. Arts and culture is definitely our culture is a big part of it. And recognizing the art in our culture is also very important. So making sure that we lay a solid foundation where everyone in our community has equitable access to beautiful things, and that it's all equally celebrated as one thing and not either or, but a both and they're both all amazing, and we all should all be recognized in the community. So definitely, as the local government, I think that they should lay the foundation for you set the culture, right? Whoever's in office technically sets the culture, honestly. If we all know that, what about our last administrations? But you should set the framework, and you should set the tone for how the community comes together, how our partnerships come together, but then also the projects that the city government puts forward with the community as well.
And
I was just going to do a little shameless plug, too, along those lines. So the University Avenue corridor is a prime example of this, right? You're seeing construction, yes, and I know that can be frustrating for folks, but you're seeing construction happening on University, which, of course, is a public safety project, right? It's making sure that pedestrians have safe methods of transportation across that corridor, right? But as part of that project, we're also investing in a partnership with Claire Cook and Basin Arts. I think I saw Claire earlier here today, and she'll be helping us to facilitate the public art components along University Avenue. So it's not just a infrastructure project, it's beyond that. And how do you find there's beauty in being able to combine all of that, because it's undoubtedly a gateway to Lafayette. So that's just an example. I know Claire's got some information I'm sure she's going to share here soon about that public art initiative and call for artists and things of that nature. But excited to see more of that happen across Lafayette.
And I think, too, one of the things that we often forget is that artists, and cultural torchbearers, they're entrepreneurs, right? They're the ones that create interest, that attract people to places. And when we invest in those people and we invest in those projects, we essentially are investing in ourselves and in our communities. So I just want to add that little bit.
Pay it forward.
And,
So
can I also just
go
add
ahead.
more artists at tables as well? So like, you know, more people like at tables making decisions and, you know, using their innovative minds to like contribute to those decision making as well. I'd love to see some kind of initiative that incorporates more artists at those tables.
Yeah, because artists, you know, we have a tendency to see things through a different lens. So, all right. So last question, then we're going to open it up to the audience. What's one cultural project, event, or initiative you believe could bring more people together in meaningful ways this year?
Well, I'll start. Shameless plug.
I think we're all gonna have shameless plugs.
McComb, as I said, our project really started from a lot of us coming together and wanting to really celebrate our history and our culture in our community. So one project that I'm really excited about that's coming forward from McComb, and hopefully that will spread all across all of our coterie neighborhoods and across the city of Lafayette, honestly, is we all know the Y Lafayette sign in Park Sensu. McComb put in a proposal to actually create a sister installation to the Y Lafayette sign called the Legacy Monument, which will be celebrating, of course, we talked about music in the past panel and our arts and culture, but celebrating all of our culture bearers, all the people who are significant as far as agriculture, music, advocacy, education in our community, and really be able to celebrate them in a larger way. But then it also expands from the location of the Legacy Park being at our Legacy Park on Magnolia Park in McComb, which is a new pocket park there on 14th and South Magnolia. Pass by, it's very beautiful. We have a very nice shade setting. Thank you, Kathy, and the planning department for making that happen. But we want to expand that as well and make sure that we're connecting all of our communities. And when we look at the legacy, we're going to leave the why off, right? Because we want to be able to ask our community why, and we want them to be able to see themselves in all of our projects. So they are the legacy within our community. We are the legacy within our community, and creating a Y Lafayette legacy trail that actually connects all of our coterie neighborhoods and all of our neighborhoods across the community and tells our unique story and tells stories about the people and the businesses and the events that really shaped our community in a large way. So I'm very excited about that coming together. Anybody has any funding, let me know. See me after the break. We take them all, right? We take it all, Zelle, PayPal. But I'm very excited about that project coming forward and just how we continue the conversation, not only in McComb-Veazey, but in the Laplace neighborhood, the Oasis community, and really figuring out how we string our communities together in a large way that really tells our unique story here for Lafayette.
So one thing that we do have coming up is we are bringing back 4th of July, and I'm really excited about that. Uncle Sam's Jam was an event that took place in downtown for quite some time, but excited to bring that back. So we're going to have Lafayette Stars and Stripes in downtown Lafayette again at Park International, so hope everybody can come and join us for that event. But aside from that event, which will be a great opportunity for folks to come together and celebrate local artists, right? We're gonna have the Good Dudes, all local musicians, right? We'll have Lost Bayou Ramblers, all local. It's creating events like that where we celebrate our local artists, right? And reinvest back into having pop-up vendors that are all local. It's really intentionally threaded throughout. So that's something that's coming up. And I'll also just mention it's not necessarily an event, but it's more of an initiative. LCG will be building a new website, which I'm so excited about. Our current one needs a lot of work, which is why we're doing it. And so I'm excited for that to continue, or to be a better destination, if you will, to connect all of the things that are happening, right? We've got events coming up in our coteries. We've got events happening right down the street from City Hall, but maybe folks just don't know how to connect into that. So digitally bringing people together by way of that resource is something I'm really looking forward to.
It's really good to hear. I think we have, I don't know if you know, but we're got a music museum coming up next door. So I think that's going to really bring people together. We have some events coming up around that as well. Again, looking for funding. In September, they're going to be doing a fantastic, you can actually, solidify your name in a brick that will be used on the building next door. So you can continue your legacy through that. So please, if you know anybody who might be able to help out with that as well. Shameless plugs makes me feel so awkward. I'm also really excited about a lot of the public art projects that we have coming up. Jamie mentioned the university corridor before. Something that we established with LCG last year was the Public Art Network, which brings together people from government, from universities, from the council members or their representatives, government, the coteries, arts institutes. We have a public art network that comes together and meets 4 times a year. And we decide on how to progress public art projects. So one of the projects that came out of that is the Children's Museum, which Laurie just announced at the start of this session. But we also have other exciting things coming out of it. So with the university project, we really, what we discovered was that, we do have a lot of great muralists here, but maybe we don't have a lot of great experienced 3D sculptural artists in the area. So what we're going to do is have a series of public art workshops that will help build on that experience to really elevate the artists in our region to be able to theoretically be able to apply for these large-scale national opportunities. So lots of different ways to plug in with the initiatives that we've got going on here.
There's not a shortage of opportunities to plug in. That's the biggest takeaway.
Anything else? Anything else to add? Well, I do want to say one thing. I want to circle back to one of the other questions in regards to government. I want to thank the current administration for making things a lot more accessible and celebrating the community as a whole. Thank you so much for that.
I'll pass it along.
Thank you. So let's open it up to the community. I mean, the community. The community, the audience. So what's a reason for you to show up in your own community? Like, what's something that would pull you guys together? What's a reason to celebrate?
We have Molly back there with a microphone, so just hands up if anybody wants to add to the conversation.
And I know there are ideas out there. I'll start off with one. How about that?
You're hitting them with a real deep question.
My dream is that because Lafayette is the hub city, and Festival International is downtown, my dream is that there would be somewhat of a residency program that would lead up to festival a week or 2 weeks prior, where each small community would essentially become somewhat like an Olympic village, where they would host artists and musicians. Those artists and musicians then become part of that community, and they help to essentially advocate to those community members to be a part of festival. I can tell you that back in Arnaudville, for the first time ever, we had folks that attended Festival International because we did something quite similar to that. They became part, they went to festival, they participated, they supported it. So can you imagine if that happened throughout Acadiana? So what's an idea that you guys have? And I know there's a lot of them out there. She's gonna bring a mic to you.
So do you know when you're coming down Simcoe and you're going downtown, they got that dip? I think we should put a mural on both sides of the wall as you're coming downtown, as it's the heart of Lafayette.
Are you talking about the underpass, right?
Yeah, yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Good.
It's a great idea.
That's an awesome idea. We would love that. McComb would love that. We want our own downtown. This is a shameless plug again. We want our own downtown, like, little installation too. So I think that's really awesome. Would you be interested in being the muralist for it or being a part of the creative? Awesome, awesome. And I mean, for me, one of my dreams is that we lean more into our youth, right? And bringing them more into the conversation. I feel like sometimes when we have the conversations in our community, it's often the same people or similar people, kind of all just hang around because we all just have a passion for the arts. But making sure that we're bringing the younger generation along as well, and, you know, giving them the tools. A lot of the work, because honestly, I'm still the youngest person, I think, in McComb-Veazey as coder, and I've been working with them for 10 years. So I'm looking forward. If you want to do something in McComb, baby, come. I will help. I will support you. But making sure that we're bringing them along, because some of the best conversations that I've had with some of my interns was like some of those most like little small sparks, right? And really that new energy that gets surged into a conversation, because sometimes we get stuck talking about the mundane, the same things over and over again. Well, you know, we should have did, or we tried this, or we said a bunch of things long time ago. But those young kids, y'all get it done, right? And we need to empower y'all to be innovative in our community and bring those new sparks of what culture looks like and what art looks like in our communities and in our neighborhoods.
Right over here.
Yes, so first, great job, guys. And I would really like to see a normalized culture of allocating like a 1% fund for arts in any new project, whether it's public infrastructure, trails, putting sculptures and murals down, any new buildings, like just a small percentage set aside for the arts would be wonderful.
Are you talking about a tax?
Maybe, arts
Yeah.
district tax.
I'm all for
or just any
taxes.
public
Or
or private building.
Are you talking about a percentage of the project total, right? So if we
Yes,
say
so something set
effectively there's a
aside.
$100,000 project, a portion of that absolutely goes
Well,
to
the
art. Is that what
state-
you're talking about? Because we
Yeah.
do, the
The
state
state does
do
have
that.
that
the state
Right,
does
so-
that.
The Percent for Art
I'm
program.
looking at my CDP friends up there.
The Percent for Art program, it's a model program in the country in a lot of different, and that's a really good thing that's happening in Louisiana right now. But it's an easy, not easy, I don't want to say easy, but it's the formula is already in place. It could be easily adopted.
Yeah, and I think too, to kind of piggyback, I think it's both and. I think especially when it comes from like local government and other projects, I think definitely having a standard of what we invest in art in that particular project, but then also as a community, what do we invest in projects? I know many administrations ago we had Create was the mechanism that we as a community decided that we wanted to invest in arts and culture. Like a tax is possible, so we have to as a community want to be able to invest in it, but then also make a commitment from in our projects and the way we implement things, making sure that we designate those specific, like, we need this happen, like something beautiful needs to happen on this project and not just a new development.
And I think along those lines too, just to stretch our minds a little bit on what art means, right? Because it could be very much a mural, right? That's typically what we lend ourselves to thinking about, but it could also mean light. It could also mean, and there's a variety of things on how that can manifest itself. It could be the way we structure some landscaping, who knows? But there's art to a lot of other things besides maybe a painted application.
And it also turns into a teaching tool, right? Because then working with new developments, you're able to then introduce to them a method of identifying what artists, how to put out a call, basically doing all of those things that I think are much needed. And it also helps to advocate for the arts at the same time, because it takes away the mystery associated with grants and all of these things and how the money's spent and all of these,
Also, I want to uplift too, as a recovering engineering student, that engineering, the design of those projects, the design of a building, this space is all art as well. So it's also recognizing the arts in it. So there may already be by default, right? Like elements of arts included in it, but we have to be able to, kind of sit in that space and recognize that this is a beautiful space, right? And that just the fact that this room converts the way it does is art perfection to me.
Oops.
If you mind saying your name first.
Milton Arsenault. Before I say anything, I want my goal and my dream is for people to be more intentional. I feel like Anna, she's so intentional with going out of her way to break cycles. I feel like Lafayette area has this merry-go-round of people, and I think that Anna and a lot more people in organizations need to be intentional instead of having like this merry-go-round, extending tentacles to the people that don't exist to make sure they get to the table and they have access and they are able to receive some funds, because there are so many things that go on in the Lafayette area that I feel needs more attention, more funding, or just access. That would really be a big dream, is that more people in organizations would be intentional, because her intention of going to Park Village with Art Spark, I was one of the recipients for Art Spark because she was intentional in going somewhere outside of the norm. So that would be my dream.
Thanks, Milton.
We have time for one more question if anyone has one.
Look, I think, maybe two.
Let's see. What time is it? We still got time.
I thought that like a mentorship program in different aspects of the arts, so like with visual artists and musicians, just like any different aspect to kind of connect the younger generations with the older. Because I've talked to I'm a musician, so I've talked to a lot of other musicians that are in my age range, but also older, and we all kind of feel like since COVID, there's been a disconnect of people really, like now we're all starting to get to know each other. And I think a mentorship program would be great.
So there will be an announcement made about a new program starting, and that includes a mentorship aspect to it. So I think it's probably okay for me to say that within your pouch there's a little pamphlet that has two opportunities. One is the Children's Museum mural, but on the other side, there's another opportunity for an intensive program, entrepreneurial program, and that does include some mentorship. So I encourage you to look that one up. It should be also available online, but if you stick around for the next session, they'll make a proper announcement about it. So.
Yeah. Is another
There was
who has
one
another
more down
question down here?
You're putting the young ones on the spot today.
It's not really a question, it's just a statement. I feel like a good idea would be for there to be more festivals like around culture. Like I'm from Boudreaux and they have the Crawfish Festival. And I know a lot of people get excited for that. So I feel like if more cities like the Frog Festival and Rain, and like I think there's a Boudin Festival and a Rice Festival, if there's more like that, it could get like the younger generation, like my generation, more interested. And then maybe they could have pop-ups like with different artists, like teaching them how to paint something along those lines.
I love that.
I do too, and also possibly looking at the industry of crawfish, and then also looking at, what happens to the peels afterwards, and looking at it from that perspective as well. The same thing with the Frog Festival and all of those things. There's another question over here.
I was just going to say a sidewalk chalk festival. Yeah.
Ooh.
Love that.
And I think too, it's creating those opportunities where we can kind of, I guess, merge both of y'all's statements, right, with the mentoring and the need for young people to get more active in like arts and culture festivals and events. Like maybe it's we create those spaces at our festivals that give them opportunity to create that community, right? And for the young to bond with the old, right? Because I love being in those types of rooms, especially hearing the stories from both sides, from our older, more senior folks who've seen some things, lived some things, experienced, and then from our younger folks as well who are still experiencing, right? And y'all are experiencing with fresh eyes. So being able to be in that room as a middle person, right, and just hearing that connection and building community with y'all, I think it'd be really important, like as a kind of just region, that we lean into that a little bit more and create those intentional spaces to be able to cultivate all of these different experiences because not everybody's an artist, right? But you can be a muse for an artist, right? Like you can inspire something in an artist to do something. So everybody has a role in it.
Yeah, so cross-generational. I mean, I like crossing the typical or the traditional boundary lines that exist between us, cross communities. I'm looking at Lafayette.
Be in the hub.
Right. Anyone else? There's got to be more questions out there. And I know we're getting ready to wrap up, and we have time for one more. Anyone? Jake, I know you got something. I saw those eyes going back and forth. Oh, right over here.
So here's an idea for y'all. Dinner theaters. Where did they all go? You know, it's the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Acadiana does a fundraiser here in this room, and it was just amazing. You know, they had a theater performance, like 6 different acts, and people being able to eat a different course. And I spent 13 years in Minnesota, okay, and I know the prior speaker, you know, they always dog Minnesota about being cold. But it's the #1 funded state for the arts besides New York. And in Minnesota, they have all these small rural towns like Arnaudville that have lakes. And they shut down during the winter, some ice fishing, but then they become alive every summer. And some of them have theaters that run dinner theaters or theater performances all summer long, and it's packed. And I thought, like I was ranking the arts in Lafayette. Certainly food and music are #1. I throw food in there. Then, you know, visual arts and dance. But I always feel bad for the theater folks because it's limited of when they can perform or what productions they could be part of, you know, especially our college faculty. I'm from UL. And I think dinner theaters would be terrific. People love food, unique food, and it gives opportunities for actors to perform and actresses.
So let's, real quick, Minnesota. So do you know how they got the funding?
Well, back to that one thing, woman over here. Years ago, I think it was 2012, they passed the Water and Arts and Cultural Act, or not tax, but act, and it just blew up for the arts, and it still continues. And it also goes to parks and trails. So that's where the money comes from. It comes from the state. Also, if you look at the number of Fortune 500 companies that exist in Minnesota compared to Louisiana, you have a dozen in Minnesota, we might have 1 in Louisiana. And so, yeah, it's totally a different business.
But also, like, those large corporations came together with a mission to invest their money into their community in that way. So I think, you know, that is also something that we could, you know, stand to do here.
Yes,
So I did a little thing in Minnesota, and so I asked, I said, and they said, well, what they did was they connected basically gun owners and artists.
Yep.
And that's the simple version of that. So it's 2 different groups that typically you would never think would come together, but by working together, they were able to pass this.
Yeah,
So, and that's
fishermen too. So.
Fishermen too, right. So it's kind of, again, blurring those lines that separate us.
Yep.
And also, when you look at Bentonville, Arkansas, the Walmart, I mean, that place has just blown up in the last 15 years. And then the Target Corporation just sprinkles money all over Minneapolis. I mean, they've had their problems, but yeah, there's that a perfect example of corporate ownership investing in the arts.
All right, so I think that's a wrap, y'all. We're a little 5 minutes over, but thank y'all so much for attending, and thank y'all so much for participating, and thank y'all for having me. And let's
Merci, George.